She was called the court prophet of the White House. Jean Dixon made many fateful predictions: the assassination attempt on Kennedy and Martin Luther King, the death of Marilyn Monroe, the launch of the first satellite, the tragedy of the Twin Towers, and natural disasters of major proportions. As a child, Jean met a gypsy woman who predicted that the girl would become a very famous prophetess and even gave her her own magic crystal ball. With this ball, Jean never parted. She believed that it was he who helped to develop her abilities and made her famous. Jean kept an astrological column in one of the magazines, which over time became very popular. Predictions came true, and Jean Dixon was interested in prominent politicians and public figures. She consulted Winston Churchill, Franklin Roosevelt, and Ronald Reagan. The daughter of German immigrants became the most famous American visionary, which was favored by the high society. Not all of her geopolitical predictions were correct, but the popularity of the seer did not fall. Americans still put her on a par with Casey and considered one of the 10 greatest prophets of all time and peoples. Most of Dixon's predictions are documented, and there are some among them that have yet to come true. It is clear from many indications that they belong to our time. Diary of a Soothsayer. Jean left the political arena of fortune-telling with her last patron, Ronald Reagan. She enjoyed the peace and no longer made loud public statements, consulted only a narrow circle of close people, and everything that came to her in visions and what she saw in her magic ball was carefully recorded in a diary. After her death, it was published, and quite a few lines made her admirers wonder what, in fact, we are talking about. Agreed. The phrase September 11th, New York, Gemini. Now we understand, but then no one could not think that what happened would happen. In January 1997, the media began to write about Jean Dixon again. The magic ball of the seer was missing. A week later, the woman passed away, could not survive the loss of the artifact. After herself, she left several notebooks with predictions. And now, analyzing the predictions of Jean Dixon in light of current events, much becomes clear. But, unfortunately, no one has been able to properly decipher and use her notes as a warning and prevention of many significant events that have occurred in recent times or are destined to occur. Virtually all of Dixon's predictions were tragic. This is not surprising. Most prophets see only bad things because negative events always attract low vibrational human emotions. This is fear, panic, shock, on the subtle plane, where there is no such important component for us as time. A dense cocoon of negative energy is formed around a certain event. Those who see it feel it, consciously or unconsciously emphasize their attention, and the event unfolds before them in detail. How much detail depends on the gift. The fate of the United States. Jean Dixon several times consulted Franklin Roosevelt. He was worried about the fate of the United States, which at that time was a full-scale military action simultaneously in Europe and the Pacific Ocean. The seer told the president that the endless wars, in which America would be mired, will significantly undermine its potential and eventually lead the country to collapse. Constant interference in the politics of other states will not end well. Americans will face a crisis from which they will not be able to get out. According to Jean Dixon's prediction, In the 21st century, America will lose its world leadership. The whole world will no longer be oriented to it. The old great country will no longer exist. The seer saw two ways of development of events. Either the United States will be divided on a territorial basis, i.e., it will disintegrate into separate mini-states, or it will be destroyed by terrible natural cataclysms. She said that one day the U.S. authorities will get too involved in foreign policy, forgetting about their own citizens. Unemployment, crime, and poverty would rise in the country. Ordinary people will begin to save themselves, no longer relying on the government. Separate communities with their own economy and law enforcement system will be created. This option of development is the most preferable. The U.S. is going to decline, one way or another, so it is better to do it with little blood. But if the authorities decide to return the separatists by force, using the army against their own people, the country will come to a complete and final end. Not only will there be a civil war, but there will be rampant elements that will simply destroy many territories. And so it will be. Modern seers confirm the words of Jean Dixon about the fate of the United States. It is believed that the first states to secede from the U.S. will be Texas, Arizona, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, and all the western states. The political case against Trump will develop. He will not be allowed to win the election. Due to wild inflation, unemployment, and default, the U.S. economy will suffer horrendous losses. Trump will be cleared of all false accusations under public pressure. He will organize a fund to support the public. The public in the western states will fully and absolutely support him. In the Texas gubernatorial election, Trump will incorporate Arizona and pull other western states into this coalition. This unification will be beyond the control of the central government in Washington. Trump will announce a referendum on the secession of western states from the U.S. However, he will not have time to finalize the formation of the new state. He will be liquidated by the U.S. intelligence services. But his successor will continue the course he started for military support and purchase of military equipment. The western states will turn directly to China. China will not refuse. A new powerful state with its own resources will appear on the western territory of the former U.S. with the direct support of Russia and China. The western states will repel Washington's attempts to take back these territories.